Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar on Studying Psychology, a Green List Tier 1 Path to New Zealand Residents. My name is Priyanka Amin, and I'll be the host for today's session. So all of you, a hearty welcome to join us today virtually. And whether you are joining us from the coziness of your home or workplace or any other location across the globe, we are delighted to have you here. Thank you for engaging with us for this important conversation. Now, we just want to make sure that your questions are addressed and that you have the chance to interact directly with our panelists. Therefore, I urge each one of you to engage actively by using the Q&A feature to submit your questions. Whether you want to get clarity on the discussed content or you would like to hear our panelists' insights on the related topic, please don't hesitate to ask. All right, with that said, now let's dive into our content. And as I introduced earlier, my name is Priyanka Amin, and I'm the Client Relations Manager with Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited. And while I mention my organization's name, allow me to introduce who we are. So we are a dedicated team based out of Auckland, New Zealand, consisting of 4 licensed immigration advisors. Our team's strength lies in its diversity, having helped clients from over 30 countries, offering tailored immigration solutions to meet each individual's unique needs. Supported by a diverse staff representing over 6 different nationalities, we bring a deep understanding of various cultures and backgrounds to our work. Collectively, we possess over 20 years of experience in the immigration industry, guiding individuals and families through the intricacies of the immigration process. Our reach extends far beyond New Zealand because we have local presence in key locations like India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Bangladesh, and Middle East, which helps us to serve clients worldwide. Also, we are proud to be the most reviewed licensed immigration advisors in New Zealand, showing how committed we are to doing a great job and making sure our customers are happy. Now that you have or you know a little bit about us, you can see that we know what we are doing and we are ready to help you. While I spoke about our office being in Auckland, I would just like to highlight on the picture on the right, the building that you see with the arrow pointing towards, that's where our office is located in Auckland. All right, so moving ahead, I would now like to introduce our esteemed speakers who will guide us through the informative session that we will be having. So first up, we have Tim Edwards, a senior lecturer at the School of Psychology in the University of Waikato. With his expertise in psychology, Tim will shed light on the academic opportunities and benefits of studying psychology in New Zealand, particularly at the University of Waikato. Next, we'll hear from Ashish Suri, the regional manager from South Asia at the University of Waikato. Ashish will provide insights into the students' experience, support services, and pathways available for international students interested in pursuing psychology studies at our university. And the third speaker that we have is Tanuva Mazumdar Bose, a licensed immigration advisor who has worked in the field of New Zealand immigration for over 24 years. Before becoming a licensed immigration advisor, Tanuva worked as an immigration manager with Immigration New Zealand for over 21 years. She's one of the few people who has worked on both the sides of the immigration spectrum. So Tanuva is here to discuss the immigration aspects, including the visa pathways, residency options, and the benefits of studying psychology as a Green List Tier 1 subject in New Zealand. So all of you, please join me in giving a warm welcome to all our speakers. And with this, now I will be passing the virtual flow over to Tim, who will be guiding us through the presentation from his screen. So Tim, whenever you're ready, I would be stopping my screen share and you can take it over. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hand it over to actually Ashish to go ahead and introduce us to a few and initial points related to the University of Waikato more generally. So go ahead, Ashish.
Thank you, Tim. Kia ora, everyone, and thank you to the Immigration Advisors New Zealand for setting up this session on the psychology. And I think it's a great opportunity for students, community to know about an emerging career and how it aligns with the long-term career opportunities in New Zealand. Some of you would have heard about University of Waikato, some of you would not have heard about it, but we are a public institution in New Zealand, established in 1964, having two campuses around one in the city of Hamilton, which is the fourth largest city of New Zealand, and the second one in the city of Taronga, which is the fifth largest, very well connected to the largest commercial city of New Zealand, which is Auckland, because most of you, when you close your eyes, Auckland always comes as a very common choice as a city in New Zealand. But let me make it very frank, New Zealand is beyond Auckland, and our connectivity to Auckland makes us very popular with international student community over the period of last 7 years. Before we dive in on Waikato and on subject webinar of psychology, I think it's very important for you all to also understand what New Zealand is all about, how it aligns with other destinations across the world. What makes New Zealand unique is the quality. And the best part about the country is there are only 8 universities. All of them are public universities and highly ranked in the world. They're ranked amongst the top 450 in the QS World Ranking. And the best part is that all New Zealand qualifications are globally recognized. So you can jump on to your next qualification anywhere in the world you would like to do that as well. Given we are living in a world which is very dynamic, very volatile, safety and calmness becomes a very important aspect for a parent or for an international student. And we are proud to say that New Zealand is ranked as the fourth peaceful country in the world to live in. And to add on, we were one of the first countries in the world to introduce code of pastoral care for international students. So safety and well-being is given an utmost importance for international students when they come to study at the not only at Waikato, but any other academic institution in New Zealand. When you look at studying overseas, I think a very important factor which makes a decision making aligned to a decision choice of a country is opportunities to work. New Zealand gives a very stable post-study work opportunity for international students to come in, gain the international exposure, and see how their career evolves from there. So if you do an undergraduate degree or a master's degree or a postdoctoral degree, which is a PhD, you will be eligible for a 3-year open post-study work visa, and that's a sufficient amount of time to understand the culture, gain an exposure, and see how your career evolves from there. We are known as a country which has a stunning lifestyle. So if you travel 80 kilometers away from any of these cities of New Zealand, you would be on a stunning landscape, whether it is on a beach or an adventure. And if you are a nature lover, I think the New Zealand has unexplored places to explore on as well. What makes us more popular over the period of last 4 years is that the dependents who are coming for a master's qualification or for a PhD, students can bring their dependents along with their family, which means that is something which is unique. And you could have a dependent visa along for your spouse and for your child as well. Next one, please. Who we are and where we are, I did mention it, but just adding 2, 3 quick notes here. So we are located in Hamilton, very close to the city of Auckland. Both these images are very unique because Hamilton is a landscape campus for the university. We got established in 1960 from here. The entire campus is spread across in 65 acres, which include the large size labs, departments, recreational centers, and to add on, we are one of the very few universities which even have an esports lab on campus as well for students to explore on. And Taronga is a recently built campus established around 2019. It's more a modern architecture, but again, a great campus to be in. And international students have an opportunity to be either on one of these campuses, depending on what qualification they decide to choose on. Next one, please. In terms of how we stack in the global ranking and who we are in terms of our engagement with students, so we are currently ranked amongst the top 250 universities worldwide. We are ranked #1 in New Zealand for research. All this is based on the QS World Ranking, and that gives us a sound of credibility to who we are as an academic institution. We have close to 2,500 international students currently on campus, and they come from 60 unique nationalities. So what comes on campus is diversity, and you also get a cultural connect with students coming in from so many different unique countries that you not only learn alongside with them, you also pick up their cultural and your connectness, which makes you a global citizen too. The business school at the uni is currently ranked #2 in New Zealand, but it also ranked amongst the top 1% of the business schools in the world. It's a Triple Crown accredited business school known as Waikato Management School. There are some of the subjects at uni which are ranked amongst the top 10 and 15, and that makes us very, very competitive, and especially psychology is one amongst them out there, sports as well. There is accounting, business finance, computing science, sociology, education. The unique aspect for Waikato is about ensuring our students get an engagement with the industry. And what we do well is that all our undergraduate degrees have a work integrated learning component, and most of our master's program have an engagement either in the form of an internship or project based. And that's been a success story for us because student gets that opportunity to engage. It also helps them to ensure they pick up the local experience while they're studying on their qualification as well. Scholarships, yes, so we will talk a bit later about it. The living expenses both in Hamilton and Taronga are comparatively less in comparison to the bigger cities in New Zealand, like Auckland, Christchurch, or Wellington, which also helps students to save a lot while they are studying and working on a part-time employment as well. What makes Waikato more popular with international students is that a lot of our master's degrees are one-year masters. So they are 180 credit 1 year, which helps them to do a 1-year master's degree and become eligible for a 3-year post-study work visa, which means you have a quick turnaround to get to the job market or look at how would you want your career to progress once you finish your qualification. Next one, please. I will now pass on to Professor Tim Edwards to talk about the School of Psychology and take you more insight about the psychology opportunities at the University of Waikato. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, and kia ora, everyone. That's how we say hello in New Zealand. And I'm Tim Edwards, Associate Professor in the School of Psychology, and I'm actually in the area of behavioral psychology, which I'll talk a little bit about today because it's very relevant to one of the qualifications that I want to highlight. But we have a lot of interesting areas of strength in the School of Psychology here, and I'll talk a little bit about more broadly some of the areas that you might get involved with if you do choose to study with us. So I'm going to, the 3 programs that I'll highlight today. The first one is a pathway to registration. Clearly, that's sort of the highlight of this webinar, given that becoming a registered psychologist does mean that you would be on the green list for immigration. And so I will start out by talking about that program, which involves 2 degrees. And then I will also briefly talk about a new 18-month master's degree. As Ashish mentioned, we have quite a few of these available, and now a new one in psychology, which means if you're interested in quickly gaining a master's degree and getting out there in the job market, this may be a good opportunity for you as well. And then I'll finally finish with just a brief discussion of a 12-month research master's degree and how that might fit in with your career plans and your study plans as well. So let's go ahead and get started on that pathway to registration. And first of all, what does it mean to be a registered psychologist in New Zealand? Well, registered psychologists in New Zealand, one of the advantages is that they can actually work in both New Zealand and Australia. That qualification is recognized in both countries. So it's actually quite a large job market, which certainly raises the appeal. Some people are concerned about the size of New Zealand. It is a lovely place to live, and there are a lot of job opportunities as a psychologist here, but it's nice to have other options as well. And psychologists are in high demand in both countries. There is a shortage of psychologists in New Zealand and Australia. And as a result, it's easy to find a job, and the jobs pay well. So these are just some recent statistics from Careers New Zealand, a government careers organization. Now, the University of Waikato is one of the only universities in New Zealand and Australia that actually offers a pathway to registration for international students. Most programs in these two countries, unfortunately, don't offer a pathway for international students for a variety of reasons. But we have one program on offer that is open to international students, and that's the one I want to talk about. So our pathway to registration involves doing a Master of Applied Psychology and Behavior Analysis, followed by a postgraduate diploma in the practice of psychology in the area of applied behavior analysis. So this is a specific area of psychology, which I'll talk about in a moment. But first of all, just to kind of highlight what this pathway looks like, the Master of Applied Psychology is a 2-year program. Year 1 is doing coursework. Year 2 is a research year. Basically, you do a thesis. So it is quite important that our New Zealand Psychology Board requires that psychologists have experience doing research. So this second year is quite important, where you gain research experience. And then in the 3rd year, this is a separate degree that you do need to apply for separately, is essentially the internship year. So this is where you're doing courses and you're also working full-time as an intern psychologist. And these positions are almost always paid positions. So fortunately, at this point, you would be getting paid while doing this, but there is, it is a process. It is a 2-step process here, and it does involve doing some work and making sure that you're doing everything you need to prepare for that internship year, which of course our course staff and our program staff are happy to help you with. Graduates of the PG DIP Prac Psych, that final degree, are eligible for registration as a psychologist in New Zealand. So the final assessment item is an oral exam, and if that oral exam is passed, it means you're immediately eligible to become registered as a psychologist. There's no additional test or additional work that you need to do. It's not like a bar exam or something like that. They're also eligible to become full members of a new credential or new credentialing organization in New Zealand called the Society of Behavior Analysis, Aotearoa New Zealand. And that is an organization that's specifically focused on this type of psychology, behavior analysis, and it's a great resource. And also going forward, the goal is for this credential to be recognized by employers and to even further increase the value of going through this program and gaining these credentials. So you might be wondering behavior analysis is not a very big area in India, I know. And so you might be wondering, what is this type of psychology? It's very popular in the United States. It's becoming increasingly popular in Australia, and in many other parts of the world, it's also increasing in popularity. And the reason is that it's a very pragmatic and data-oriented approach to psychology. So it's kind of a no-nonsense approach to psychology, where we just focus on behavior and the factors that change behavior. And areas of application include developmental disabilities, severe problem behavior, education, depression, and other mental health issues, and a long list of other areas where you can apply this approach to psychology, which is very much focused on the environmental context in which behavior occurs and understanding why people do what they do and helping them to overcome specific issues. And these can be in a variety of settings, like educational settings, occupational settings, home and health settings, for example. There are many other settings as well, though. So it's quite broad range of applications and a broad range of settings in which those might be, you might work, for example. These are just a couple of the organizations that our interns work with: the Ministry of Education, Be Change, Explore Specialist Advice. There's a long list of other organizations we have connections with. Okay, So that's kind of the overview of that pathway to registration. But there are many other careers in psychology. So you may not necessarily be specifically interested in a career as a psychologist, for example, working in a clinic or working in that sort of setting. You might be interested in applying psychology to project management, or applying psychology in a government job, or in forensic psychology, or organizational psychology, or sports psychology. Or you might want to become a consultant on behavior-related issues, or you might want to conduct research. So there's a lot of different areas that don't necessarily involve becoming a registered psychologist, and these are some of the degrees that we offer that are relevant to these other career paths. So of course, you could potentially pursue a PhD with us. You might pursue a Master of Arts, which I'll talk about in a moment, or a Master of Science, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. So let's start with the you might also want to teach psychology as well. That's another point. And of course, academia and research. So let's talk about this 18-month Master of Arts program. It's a brand new program that we've just put together, and it's the quickest pathway to a master's degree in psychology that we offer after a bachelor's degree. So it's we hope one day to make it available in 12 months. Right now, it does take 18 months, but that is still quite a fast turnaround time. So following a bachelor's degree to graduation is only 18 months. And our goal with this is to allow you to combine psychology courses with courses in other areas to create a marketable skill set. So examples of this might be combining psychology with policy to become marketable for government jobs. Data analysis is also a really important skill that can open up a lot of job opportunities, especially when combined with an understanding of behavior and psychology. And management and psychology, for example, are also another really good pairing. So taking management courses and psychology courses together can be a great combination that open up some interesting and potentially exciting career opportunities. So actually, this is incorrect. It is now approved. I forgot to update that slide. So it is a new qualification that has now been approved. And so this is full steam ahead. We have the green light, and we have started accepting students into this program. Another program I'd like to highlight really quickly is just a 12-month Master of Science. So this is open to applicants who already have 1 year of postgraduate study. So it could be an honors program, it could be a PG dip. If you already had a master's degree, but you're looking for a pathway into postgraduate study in New Zealand, you could consider this as well, because you just need to have at least 1 year of postgraduate study to do this. It is a research-only degree, so it involves doing a master's thesis research project with a supervisor, which of course means a supervisor does need to be available, but we have a great matchmaking system. If you apply for this program, we'll try to find supervisors that do things that you seem to be interested in and help you to find the right person to work with. But yeah, this can lead to careers in research or other areas, like, for example, doing program evaluation, or a lot of those other careers I mentioned on that other screen earlier. And it can also be a pathway to a PhD if you're interested in pursuing further postgraduate study afterward, or like a research career. So these are just some of the areas of expertise and some of our strengths in the School of Psychology: developmental psychology, cognitive psychology, social psychology, organizational psychology, kaupapa Maori and indigenous psychology. So the Maori psychology is, of course, psychology related to the indigenous population here. And we also have expertise in clinical psychology, behavioral psychology, community psychology, and even things like neurology and perception, that sort of area. And just a real quick overview of our entry requirements. So for the MAPSI, in order to be considered for that program, you need to have a B+, the equivalent of a B+ average across the last year of undergraduate psychology courses. And the deadline for that application is the 1st of October. So if you're interested in applying for that, you should start thinking about it early and get that application in. The Master of Arts, that 18-month program I highlighted, that requires a B average across the last year of undergraduate psychology courses. And that has 2 entries per year, one in February and one in July. The Master of Science, that requires a B average in whatever that equivalent of your first year of study is at postgraduate level. And of course, it requires the availability of supervisors for a thesis. And you can apply for that at any time. We look at those applications very frequently as they come in to make sure your application's not sitting there without a response. Okay, and PhD as well. You need to have either an honors degree or a master's degree already, and you can apply for that program at any time as well. Now, just stepping back and saying, kind of responding to this question, why might you want to study psychology with us at the University of Waikato? Well, in our psychology school, we specialize in applications of psychology. Most of the academic staff here are interested in applying psychology to make the world a better place. And this is where the careers are in psychology. Most of the careers are around applications of psychology. So as a result of that, our graduates have excellent job prospects. And we're also a relatively small university. And so students get a personal experience. So you really do get to know the academic staff, and you get a lot of opportunities that you probably wouldn't get at a huge university. And also, speaking of our academic staff, the students in our program are taught by award-winning academics who are involved in psychological research and practice. So these are people who are doing this either serving as psychologists in the community or doing psychological research that has real impact. And so they're not just learning from people who've read about this stuff in a book. They're learning about it from the people who are, publishing high impact articles in reputable journals and doing this work out in the community. So it's learning directly from the source. Where is this information coming from? All right, so that's just an overview of those 3 key programs. Thank you for listening to that, and I'm happy to answer any questions later. But first, I'm going to hand it back over to Ashish to talk a little bit about some more general entry requirements and other information related to application and scholarships, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Professor Tim. Coming back to entry requirements, Tim did highlighted a slide on entry requirements, but just adding on that all our applications are online, and we have applications open right now for 2025 intake. So if you're very keen to start, then you would just reach out to the immigration, start your applications as well. In terms of English language, apart from the test like IELTS, which is the overall requirement is 6.5 with no band less than 6 for all our psychology qualifications. We do accept Pearson test for English, and for that, the requirements are 56 overall with no band less than 46. And I think early this year, we've also started to accept Duolingo. So if some of you are keen to look at giving an English language test as a Duolingo English language exam, our entry requirement for master's program are 120 plus. All of this makes you eligible to come and study with the university. We do have English language pathways and opportunity to come through our pre-master's program or through our foundation studies program if you're looking for an undergraduate course to come in. Our pathway providers are Navitas, and we known as University of Waikato College, which is very much a building within the University of Waikato campus in the Hamilton campus. Next one, please. I think all of you, when you're looking at taking your big step of coming over, scholarships play a very important role, and University of Waikato is very supportive on that aspect. We understand that the scholarships could be a motivational factor for you to look at your decision-making choice between universities. And at the undergraduate and for master's students, we have the Vice Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship Award, which is awarded based on academic merit. How good you are in your academics determine the value of the award, and the maximum value is up to 15,000 New Zealand dollars. The best part about these scholarships are that these scholarships are open every month, and the following month, the 3rd week of the following month, we come back with an outcome. And once you receive your conditional offer or your formal offer, you are eligible to apply. So don't wait for your formal offer. If you have a conditional offer letter in hand, you can still apply for the Vice Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship. And the process is very easy. It hardly takes less than 15 minutes to submit a scholarship application to go through in. For the research, which is the postdoctorate study, we do have the doctoral scholarships, which are full scholarships, which covers the tuition fee and the living expenses as well. This process is a bit different from the Vice Chancellor's Award for Master's programs, because in case of the doctoral scholarship, no application is required. If you have received your PhD admit letter, then the academic board, which is the School of Graduate Research, would go through all your academic documents. And if you're an exceptional student coming for a PhD, they would be very open to directly give you this award without an application, which means you could come over and study your entire PhD with no cost spent. And this makes very exciting for a lot of students who are mature and are looking to get into research careers in New Zealand. And a very important element of studying research in New Zealand is that the PhD is a domestic tuition fee. So as an international student, you still pay a domestic tuition fee for your academic study at the postdoctorate level. Next one, please. I think that should be the last one, if I remember. Yes, so thank you everyone for listening to us patiently. We can now happy to answer the Q&A to ensure that you have more clarity on your academic plans. Thank you.
Right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Tim and Ashish, for sharing your presentations. Tim, thank you for introducing these new approved master's programs. It's always exciting to see, like, how the university is expanding and how it is offering and providing more opportunities, and to pursue the academic and professional goals. And we appreciate your efforts in sharing this valuable information with us. And thank you, Ashish, to speak about the academic requirements and scholarship. It's always fantastic to hear about the support that is available to students pursuing their academic goals, and it will definitely just undoubtedly help them and benefit for many aspiring students. So both of you, your talks were helpful and informative. So thank you. So next up, now what we will be doing is we will move to our Q&A session, and I will be asking the questions. So I'll be picking up questions one by one, and then I'll pass it over to you to answer. So the first question that we have is, I have a master's degree in business. Do I need an undergrad degree in psychology to enroll with a master's or a PhD degree in psychology? Ashish, would you be able to answer that? Or should I? I'm sorry, you're
No, that's okay. I'm happy to answer it. Not a very straightforward answer for this boy, because yes, he would need a psychology degree to apply for any of our psychology programs, including the Masters of Arts in Psychology, which means being a business graduate, his disadvantage if he's coming to us for a direct psychology, his application wouldn't be further assessed. And he has put the second part of his thing there, that undergrad degree in psychology, yes, you need that to apply for a course of psychology at the university. Yeah.
It is
Yes.
possible. I could add, it
And
is
Tim
possible
can
to
add,
do a
yes.
graduate certificate in psychology, which will be treated as it's a 1-year program that would be treated as the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. So if you're really keen to get into psychology, there is a pathway to do that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ashish and Tim. And thank you, Tim, for mentioning that there is always a pathway to do what you want to do. So yes, you all can definitely reach out to us if you all want on our email address, which is contact@nzimmigration.info. If you all have any other questions pertaining to, know more about the graduate certificate pathways that are being offered by the university. All right. With that said, now we'll move to the next question. So the next question, Tina, this is for you. Is there a straight residence option under the streamlined skilled residence pathway available for psychology students in New Zealand?
Yep, I'll take that. Thanks, Priyanka. So not necessarily for students, but if you completed your psychology, the degree in psychology, and you are able to get registered as a psychologist, then yes, psychology is a psychologist is an occupation that comes on the green list, which means that there is a straight to residence option if you're able to get a job offer as a psychologist and you're registered in New Zealand as a psychologist. So that's your straight to residence option. But notwithstanding that, you also may have an option, under the skilled migrant category if you've done a master's degree. So if you've done a master's degree and you have a year of work experience in one of the skilled occupations, you could also take that route to get your residence. But for the straight to residence option, you will need to be a registered psychologist in New Zealand.
Thank you,
Over to you,
Tanuva.
Priyanka.
Thank you. So the next question that we have, this is again pertaining to the entry requirement, more towards Ashish. So I'm from Sri Lanka. I have done MSc in cellular and molecular immunology and HND in psychology as my highest qualification, and working as a clinical embryologist in human reproductions technology. Please let me know if I can do PhD program for psychology.
I think I will let Tim to answer
Okay,
this since it was a higher
all right.
research degree question. It's better for him to
Sure.
answer this. Thank you.
No problem. I will do my best. So it's a good question. Generally speaking, the psychology academic staff members here would be looking for somebody with a psychology background when they're, considering who they might be able to work with as a PhD student. If you could identify a very specific part of your background that was relevant to psychology, we have in the past. In fact, one of my current PhD students has a slightly different background from psychology. Then it is sometimes possible, but you would need to highlight how what you've done and what you're interested in doing is relevant to psychology and how your previous education perhaps overlaps with psychology, or if not, how you would address that.
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for answering that. The next question that we have, someone has given their age and the PT score of 66, and they have mentioned if they can apply for Master of Clinical Psychology. Now, for this particular question, I would also like Tanuva to just touch base upon the age criteria for any course requirement or from residence point of view requirement. And I will let then Ashish speak about the PT score if that's acceptable for Master of Clinical Psychology. So Tanuva, would you like to start with the age factor?
Sure. Thank you, Priyanka. So, whilst there may not be any age sort of limit for doing qualifications, from a residence point of view under the skilled migrant categories, be it straight to residence or under the skilled migrant, you have to be less than 56 years of age. So when you are planning on doing your qualification, just bear that in mind, that you will, how long you will take to finish your the program, and how long will you need to sort of get your job offer in place so that you are going to be less than 56 by the time you're able to, sort of ready to apply for your residence. So over to you, Ashish, now to answer the rest of the parts of the question.
Sure. Thanks, Tanuva. With reference to the PT score, that's acceptable because the PT score we need is overall of 56 with no band less than 46. What we need to be, which is not very clear here, is what is his background? Because if student is looking to apply for our Masters of Applied Psychology in Behavioral Analysis, which is a pathway for a clinical psychology registration, student need to have an undergraduate degree in psychology, and then the application goes through with the TIMSS team for an assessment, and then they come out with an outcome. So student can be much more precise on the academic background of what they have done in their undergraduate degree. That will help us further to guide on a possible admit for the application to be considered.
Thank you, Tanuva. Thank you, Ashish. So the next question that we have, Ashish, that's for you. When are the application or deadlines for the upcoming term? So I'm assuming that would be for the July intake.
No problem. I'll mention it for both T1, July and Feb next year. For July 2024, if you are asking, students are very late because we have already closed our applications on 15th April, which means students, if you have already applied, then your application will be considered. But if you are a new applicant, you will go to the assessment for the next round because given the fact that your visa applications still are taking minimum 8 weeks time, and you need to have your visas applications to be lodged with immigration by the month of April or early May to have your visa well in time with us for a July start. For the Feb 2025, as Tim mentioned, there's a deadline for Masters of Applied Psychology program, and that's 1st October. So if you're looking for a clinical pathway, you need to apply for Masters of Applied Psychology Behavior, and the deadline is 1st October. But if you're keen to apply for our other two programs, which is Masters of Arts in Psychology, students can apply till the end of November, absolutely no problem. And for the Masters of Social Sciences, again, the applications are open round the year because that's a research degree. Depending on how you have an alignment to a research supervision, then accordingly, the alignment to the start dates are given on an offer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ashish. So the next question that we have, Tanuva, this would be for you. What specific career opportunities exist after the master's courses leading to residence visa opportunities? Yep. Would you like to take?
Thank you, Priyanka. Yeah, thank you, Priyanka. So I guess once you've done the master's courses, you could either become a psychologist and get registered as a psychologist, in which case you will be eligible for residence under under the straight to residence green list because psychologist is an occupation there. However, if that is not an option and you do master's degrees which are not leading to registration as a psychologist, you don't lose hope because there is another pathway that is open, which is under the skilled migrant category option, which basically means that if you've done a master's degree, you get 5 points for your qualifications, and you will need to get that 1 more year, 1 year of work experience to get an additional point, which qualifies you for residence under the skilled migrant category. Now, the particular thing that is necessary for that work experience and the offer of employment in New Zealand is that it should be a skilled offer of employment and and skilled work experience. So that is one thing you'll have to bear in mind, and also that you need to be paid at the median wage, which is in existence at the time. So those are the requirements. Thank you. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Tanuva. The next one, Tim, this one is for you. Will studying this MSc course allow me to apply for licenses in psychotherapy or counseling pathway after graduating in New Zealand?
Thank you. Good question. So the MSc course does not lead to the pathway for licensure as a psychologist. Instead, you would want to pursue the MAPSI. Now, that being said, if you did have the relevant coursework that corresponded with our Master of Applied Psychology and Behavior Analysis, but you were just missing a thesis, then that would work because you just need the research component. But you do need to have the relevant coursework in order to be eligible to apply for the internship year that I mentioned, the PGDip Prac Psych, in order to get on that pathway to registration.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. The next question that we have is, hi, I'm from India. I have a master's in clinical psychology. And after that, I had a career gap. And now I want to continue my career in psychology. Can you suggest an effective course which leads to PR in New Zealand? Now, this question is very generic because we definitely need to know more things around you, like, what sort of gap do you have in your profile, and more towards what kind of qualifications you have had. What I would like to first do is, Tanuva, would you like to speak about the gap in the profile to the audience so that they're aware about, what kind of gap would be accepted when we talk about accepting gaps? And then probably we can talk about course recommendation through Ashish or Tim. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Priyanka. So, when you say gap, it really means what is the gap that you're talking about? Are you talking about a gap when you have not been doing anything, or are you essentially talking about a gap in studies, which means you were involved in doing something else, like you may have been working, but not necessarily studying? Now, the latter situation is actually not a problem as long as you're able to provide evidence of what it is that you've been involved in. So you could have been doing short-term courses, or if you've been working, then you provide your work experience documents, or the training you've done, then you provide the training certificates. However, there is a period of time where you have not been doing anything at all, then up to 12 months is probably something that immigration still accepts. But anything more than that, we will need to have a fairly well designed and personalized sort of explanation as to what it is or why is there a gap that exists, in your situation. So that's something I don't think I can answer generically, but that is something we will have to do a sort of tailored advice on. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Tanua. With regards to the course selection, with regards to your course selection, I would like to say if you could just pass over your CV to us on our email address, contact@nzimmigration.info, we would then be able to recommend, what courses you could likely opt for. And since you have heard about the entry requirements, the career opportunities for the different courses, we can then talk about it at length. Okay. So moving to the next question is, will studying this MSc course I'm sorry, I have taken that question. I'm just going to move on to the next one. So we have someone from Philippines. Hi there. So the person has mentioned that the age is 46-year-old. I don't have psychology background, but I'm graduated a 2 years course healthcare services. Am I qualified? So I'm not sure if you were present when Tim answered this question, where he did mention that yes, there are graduate pathway certificate programs which would help you to build the bridge to learn the psychology program. Tim, would you like to add to it? Or you think that I was able to cover that up?
I think you covered it well. Yes, they could do a graduate certificate and fill that gap. Yep.
All right, great. Thank you. So the next question that we have is, do I need to wait till I get my registration, or can I bring my family earlier to New Zealand? Tanua, this would be for you.
Yeah, thanks, Priyanka. So you don't need to wait for registration, as if you're doing a master's degree in New Zealand, then your family, so your partner, will be eligible for a work visa. And if you have children, then depending on their age, they could be eligible for either a dependent child student visa or a dependent child visitor visa. But the registration aspect is actually more for assessing your eligibility for the residence application. It's the student visa which sort of makes your dependents eligible for visas to accompany you to New Zealand. So I guess the short answer to that is no, you don't have to wait for the registration. You can get your family even when you've been approved the student visa to study the course.
Great, thank you. The next question that we have is, Ashish, I think this is for you. So since you did mention that the language requirement is for PT overall is 56, NBLT 46. So the question is, why is it lower than usual language requirement for masters? Would you be able to answer that?
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Priyanka. It's not lower than the usual masters. Kindly note that if a student is giving an IELTS examination, the overall requirement is 6.5 with no band less than 6. The PT equivalency is calculated not by us. It's calculated by the Academic Board of Pearson Test for English. And the advice to us from them is that the equivalency score of ETE to an IELTS 6.5, no band less than 6, is overall of 56 with no band less than 46. And university has corrected that. Previously, it used to be 58. So it's an advice which has come in from the PT Academic Assessment Board, looking at the equivalency with the other English language test examinations.
Wow, great. Thank you, Ashish. Yes, that was something new for us to know. So thank you for letting
No
us know
problem.
about it. All right. So moving next, the next question that we have, I am doing Masters of Arts in Psychology in final year. Will I be eligible for Masters of Science in Psychology? So for this particular question, Tim, would you be able to answer that? Or Ashish, would you be able to? And
I think
once that question
Tim
has
would
been
be better.
answered, okay. So once Tim answers that, Tanua, would you also be able to share the perspective while pursuing 2 masters from the immigration perspective?
Sure, I can do that. But I think Zoha has
Yeah.
done a Bachelor of Arts. She's done sort of a correction at the correction later on.
Sure. So first, I'll hand it over
But
to
I'll
Tim
still
to answer.
explain. I'll still explain the whole that aspect of
All
it.
right, that sounds great. Yes. So Tim, over to you to answer that.
Yes, so yeah, putting the potential immigration issues aside, which I'll leave for Tanuba, as long as you have that equivalent of at least 1 year of postgraduate study, that is, and even if it's just purely coursework, if it didn't involve research, that's no problem. As long as it's the equivalent of 1 year of study in psychology, then you would be eligible to apply for the MSc.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, so I'll just handle the thing about doing 2 masters. If you've already done a master's in your home country and you're wanting to pursue a subsequent master's in New Zealand, I guess what is the most important thing is to sort of articulate your need for doing that course and why or how will doing that master's in New Zealand going to add to your sort of career pathway or your academic pathway. So how Tim explained that you need 1 year of postgraduate study to even get admission into the MSc program. Now, in this case, that's actually a very sort of good explanation or a very reasonable explanation of why you would want to, you've already done a master's in arts and why would you want to pursue a master's in science in New Zealand? Because it's one of the entry criteria. So that's a good explanation. If you're able to explain the need behind doing that, and we can substantiate that with a little bit more of supporting evidence, that would be the ideal way to go. But if there is no real explanation or articulation of why, then that's when the sort of problem sort of starts creeping up. So it basically means that you need to be very clear in your head as to why you've sort of opted for that program, and then get help in writing out your statement of purpose accordingly.
Thank you, Tanuva, for explaining it so well. So yes, with that, we'll move to the next question. The next question that we have: what courses would you recommend to obtain a counselor or clinical psychology after an undergraduate honors degree in psychology? Ashish, would you be able to answer that one?
I'm
Or should
sure.
I?
Otherwise, Tim can answer as well, because it's a very easy one. That any student who's looking for a clinical opportunity or a registration as a psychologist, as Tim mentioned in a slide deck, student needs to do a master's of applied psychology with majors in behavioral analysis. They'll have to finish that 2-year course of study with us, and then they need to be absolutely academically strong to able to get that place in the program, which is postgraduate diploma in the practice of psychology. And once they finish that particular program, they become eligible for the same, which means any student coming in from an undergraduate degree in psychology, and even it's an honors one from any other part of the world, if they have the right subjects, the application committee will be very happy to consider them for the Masters of Applied Psychology.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you for answering that. So the next question that we have, I'm sorry, just give me a minute and I'll just quickly. Okay, I see there are many repetitive questions, so I'm just trying to pick one. All right. So the question that we have is, I have a daughter still schooling in Philippines. She's pursuing currently the third year college, and she's taking Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Is she qualified to the program or scholarship? So I'm assuming she's pursuing bachelor's. I would just like to say, like, the academic requirements would definitely post your completion of the bachelor's would help you gauge whether you would be qualified for the program. But with the scholarship aspect, Ashish, would you just like to speak about that bit?
Sure. Thank you, Priyanka. When it comes to scholarship, once your daughter finishes the Bachelor's of Science in Psychology, depending on the kind of qualification they have applied for the University of Waikato, whether it's the master's program in psychology or any other qualification, and the time they secure their offer letter, then they become eligible to apply for a scholarship application. So once you have an offer letter in hand, whether it's a conditional or formal, you can just log into your student login account and select scholarship and apply for the Vice Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship. And if you're very good with your academic merit in your home country, then the scholarship committee will consider you for an academic award.
Thank you. We have this one question. Will this recorded session be available for review? Yes, of course, it would be available for review. So you can always visit our website, which is you can always visit our website and you will be able to find all the recorded sessions available on that page. And having said that, as we approach towards the end of our webinar, what I would like to do is, and I still see there are questions still rolling in. Would you like to take one last question, Tanua?
Sure.
Okay. So if I do a Master's of Applied Psychology followed by the PG Diploma in Applied Psychology for registration, what would be the post-study work visa duration? 3 years or 1 year? And when should the post-study work visa be applied?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. So in fact, you should ideally apply for the post-study work visa after you've done your master's degree, because that's when you get the 3 years of post-study work visa. The postgraduate diploma, being a 1 year qualification, actually will make you eligible for only 1 year. So, and you will not get combined post-study work visas for 2 qualifications that you complete in New Zealand, because you get that opportunity only once. So the post-study work visa should be applied for, within 3 months of, of the visa that you get to do your master's in applied psychology. So you get the full complement of the post-study rights in New Zealand.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Tanuva, for taking that last question. So as we already ran out of time, I would just like to take a moment to thank everyone for their active participation and those insightful questions. Some questions were really amazing and very thoughtful. Your engagement has truly enriched our discussion today. While we still have questions remaining, unfortunately, since we ran out of time for today's session, we will not be able to take it over here on this platform. But I want to assure you that we value every question that has come in. And that is the reason what we will do is we will do our best to address them via email following the webinar. Okay. So if you have any further questions or need any kind of assistance, please feel free to reach out to us directly at our email address, which is contact@nzimmigration.info. And we are always here to help you. So just before we conclude our today's webinar, I want to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude to our speakers who have been amazing in giving us valuable insights and with your presentations, and also talking about going a bit, a lot more, touch basing on the questions that were being asked. So thank you for that. And thank you to all the participants for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting this webinar and engaging with all of you. We hope you found the session valuable. And remember, our team is here to support you with any further questions or help you need. So let's stay connected, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. You all have a great day. And would you all like to say bye to our participants, Tim, Ashish, and Tanua?
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Very nice having this opportunity to explain our programs to you, and hope you get in touch if you have any questions.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Tim, and thank you, Ashish, for your valuable time and input. And thank you, Priyanka, for a lovely job. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time out, to listen to us and sort of engage with us on the question answer platform, especially.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Immigration Advisors for giving us an opportunity to interact with students. And I think it's been a great engaged session where we've been able to highlight on career opportunities for psychology, and we look forward to connecting with students. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us at the international office as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So thank you all, and we end the session now. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.